Minister, I want to begin by showing my gratitude for our local media, radio and newspapers and other correspondents. Communities in rural Ireland depend on these, especially during this difficult period in the isolated areas and everywhere else. Information through the airways by Tip FM and Tip Midwest are a lifeline to many of those people, and I really hope that it will get adequate support, and the local papers as well, when this from people as well as from the government. We know that the businesses do not have the type of additional income to give them at the moment. I must express my sincere disappointment with iconic newspapers and their owner, Malcolm Denmark, on his appalling treatment of hard-working journalists, staff journalists and local correspondents. Deputy Lowry referred to it as well. Minister, this is unbelievable, but this is modern Ireland, big business. And this is why I'm worried of this so-called pandemic, because it's a scandemic for big businesses. This is happening before this ever happened at all. Minister, this man has just destroyed the local papers, doesn't care about them, and he paid himself £3.1 million last year now, handsomely. Yet staff haven't got a wage increase since 2008. Benefits like maternity leave and sick leave, all admonished. It's just reckless riding roughshod over good, decent, hard-working journalists who have families and who have served the communities well for decades. And make it all an insult to injury, Minister. He's claiming the COVID payment to pay his staff, even though the business was profitable, and he's not interested in the Tipperary Star, the Nationalist or the Midland Tribune, or the many other papers, right up as far as Deputy Penkel's constituency in Donegal, Democrat, I think. So it's outrageous what you've allowed happen, but it happened across the beef industry, it's happened with the broadband contracts, it's everywhere, Minister. So it's Fine Gael policy, obviously, to look at, let these big business people do what they like, to whom they like, talk about the regulator. You might as well talk about Santa Claus or something like that, because they don't care about regulation. They just, the way he treated those titles that served the counties for decades, for centuries, some of them, and some excellent journalists. There's now 4 were left going, the Nationalists, and 4 in the Tip Star. I'm expecting 2 then or 3 do the work that 7 or 8 were doing, and driving them like that, and no respect. You have to respect your workers, Minister. Minister, I have questions on broadband, and they are, Minister, we're getting complaints regarding air also, Minister. The air now is a lot worse than it was 20 years ago. I remember when Albert Reynolds waved the phone at Fianna Fáil dish, I was there proudly, that he'd have a phone and everybody within a month. Now it would take 3 and 4 and 5, 6 months for an older person to get a phone repaired. It's disgusting what has happened. Minister, can your department please provide specific details of the deployment of fibre broadband in County Tipperary, and how many properties in Tipperary were supplied with broadband in 2020 to date, and how many properties in County Tipperary will be supplied with broadband from now until the end of 2020? When will the deployment plan be made available, the National Broadband Plan, Minister? There are more questions about this, Minister, more announcements than this, than I had hot dinners. And it's then the people haven't it, farmers, students, you name it, people working from at home, to allow children to access their schoolwork, or teachers to be able to liaise with them, and a farmer to fill out his application forms, or the students for the CEO forms. It's a necessary tool now, and we're with the Garda in rural Ireland. What is most frustrating for people when they realise that they are located maybe 100 yards or more from the properties that are in the blue area, and they are located a few hundred yards to a broadband connection point, but still cannot get connected and can get no answers. Another issue that needs to be addressed is, as I said, is the air customers. Minister, SAI, again, under your watch, you had loads of money for a huge application taken up, but you haven't money, and the contractors haven't been paid, and they can't say a word because they have the hand inside the dog's mouth, and that dog bites if you say something. But Minister, I have a contractor recently contacted me who came off the payment, go back to work, and he wasn't allowed to go back to work. And the simple reason, I believe, is another scam, because you don't have the money to pay him. It's nothing to do, he's working on site on his own, maybe one other person on a building, and it's the fact you have the money to pay him. So, Minister, a lot has happened in our Mother Ireland, dear Mother Ireland, is nearly with O'Leary in the grave. But I tell you what, with Fine Gael policy, and now we're cobbling the government again with Fianna Fáil and others to try and make sure the big business survive, and they thrive. And they don't want to survive at all, they want to try, but they want to stand and walk on workers, on people, on small businesses, on companies. And Deputy Lowry mentioned conglomerates, but he didn't mention anything about the conglomerates of the racing industry that we have in Tipperary, which I support the racing industry totally. But what about the conglomerate of buying up all the land, gobbling every parcel of land that can be bought in Tipperary and beyond? And they're cool, more equine industries. And you can't criticise them either. You'll be banished to hell of the Connacht, the new God nearly in places. But it's time that we rethought our whole situation regarding the pandemic, Minister, and left Ireland live again, left Ireland operate again. Open up our churches, let people go to worship, whatever faith they want to worship, and change this situation about the 2-metre rule. It's codwallop at this stage. We criticise Hungary here for what they've done. We should take a leaf out of Hungary's book and see how they dealt with the pandemic.
I don't think Minister Bruton has responsibility for the bloodstock industry yet.